Yeah.
There we go.
No.
We're here. So we get a slightly larger view.
Yeah.
This outlet for. I did my semester here. This line is on. It should be a little like that. This way. That should be one. I mean, should we connect this computer to the meetings in case we want to share a screen? Anything up there?
We can share the screen or we can share the projector.
Oh, okay.
Because there is no linear Wi-Fi connection.
No, I was thinking in terms of if we want to share any documents. Are you using that? If you want to share screen.
Hello.
Should we connect this one to the meeting?
Yes.
Hi, Maxim. Hello, Vadim.
Good morning, Maxime.
Hello.
So Khaled knows that we are. And now we are. Here. See, here. Zoom.
Is it like that? Oh, we'll turn on. Oh, we might have to do that.
Press the hard reader.
With audio or without audio? Without, because we have. Yes.
Does that usually?
Or, yes. Team, the audio.
Recording in progress.
Yeah.
So the audio is okay now?
Is audio.
How are we getting?
No, no problem. Yes, in the middle.
Seems okay. Yep. Can you hear us okay?
Hi, Maxime. Can you hear us?
Yep. I can hear you pretty clear, so everything is okay. Hello, everyone.
So, we are set. We don't know about Khaled. Khaled, if will be with us or not, but I think we'll go on. Also see Luigi, and Mattia will be with us in the afternoon, so after lunch. And before to start the meeting of today, I would like to share some observations and considerations on the experience we had yesterday, that in my view was very interesting for making some points about this project. I have roughly took some notes. Okay, we have seen that all metal detectors, the one you brought from Franklin and Marshall, and also the one we tested, the CHEA military grade one, are capable to find all mines, even the plastic one, and even the small one that was unexpected target, the gray one. Yes, is a very small one, and I can find the model also. So this is a good news in my view, because the detection by robot number 2 with metal detector provided by the JUST will be feasible, okay, for our final demo. This is my first consideration. Then about the robot performance on a real field. Real field means our garden in a specific test. Of course, the small wheels and the 4-wheel drive has some difficulties in some kind of ground. We have seen a slippery problem. We have seen difficulties when we have some holes and so on. We expected some behavior like this, but in our test yesterday was evident. And so that is an observation how we have to design the final demo test site.
Yeah, I think it has more to do with designing the final demonstration.
Yes.
Than it has to do with redesigning anything we've done so far.
Okay.
And luckily, Frody and I have discussed this, and I think are we planning to do a final demonstration with all 3 of the robots physically together in a single place?
That is the main point.
If we were to do that, I would suggest that we do that in Pennsylvania, in Franklin and Marshall, because we have some fields that look very much like Donbass.
Okay.
Big, wide open fields with treed margins, but this was never, our system was never going to be working in the trees in the forest anyhow.
Okay.
But we have large agricultural fields that we could use as the demonstration area. And we'd have lots of horizon for the GPS.
Yes.
And we know from, years ago, the Ukrainians recorded some very long, high-resolution topographic
Yes, I
profiles.
remember. Yeah.
And we had a few places where the robot would hang up, but for the most part, it could go almost anywhere on these agricultural fields. So I think if we pick the right place for the demo, we're going to be fine. We just have to acknowledge that no system works everywhere, and our system isn't going to work in the woods, under trees, in places where there's too much loose vegetation at the surface.
It might also be the case that it might be easier to get equipment into the United States
If we
rather
physically get it all
if you
together.
want to bring things from Italy or Jordan, compared to bringing things to Jordan or bringing things to Croatia or Italy.
Yeah.
Maybe. So that might be another reason to.
Okay. This is a good point, because we have now to see our perspective goal in 6-8 months. Okay. Because our colleagues in Jordan, I expect that they will start working on their robotic system in a month, not before, because they have still some problems with customs. But anyway, they will start integrating their system. They have to test their system in Jordan. I expect to visit them with you in Jordan at one point to see how their system work on their test field. And maybe the test field we have here can be reproduced similarly in Jordan, and of course maybe also if necessary in the United States. Okay. And it's also easier maybe for our Ukraine colleagues that are online now to reach the United States instead of going around Jordan or I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing we could do instead of physically being all together would be to do, as Khaled mentioned yesterday, and that is make identical test beds. The soils are going to be a little bit different. And here it may be harder to find a place with good horizon for the GPS. But the good news is that you don't actually have to drive the Greek line. You just need to get on top of targets.
Yeah.
And we can, the targets that we get from the metal detector, if it's in a test bed in Jordan, aren't going to work for you anyhow. That would be a long way for Ugo to travel.
Of course, of course.
So we'd almost have to simulate that part anyhow.
Hi, Khaled.
Khaled, good morning.
Good morning. We just start. Please take your seat. Be careful, we have cables.
Just came walking.
Yes, you walk. Okay.
I'm very sorry.
You test on the big steep road. It's nice, but it's quite steep. So, do you need coffee or other drinks?
Oh, the machines are on this floor, maybe?
Yes, yeah. In
Zero.
the ground floor.
Oh, ground floor?
Ground floor.
Yeah.
Not this floor.
Take the elevator.
Yeah.
So we were started just now the discussion about what we have seen yesterday in our garden, performing a Greek line with our robots configuration, and we pointed out that the four-wheel system with small wheels have some problems with uneven surface. So the idea is how to plan the discussion of today now, how to plan the final demo, where, in which way. And so there is one proposal from team to examine the possibility to go with our two robots in the United States to have a final demo on the same field. So the full team of 3 robots will be demonstrated there in United States. And where team was describing agricultural field or with nice horizon view.
Yes, so the GPS would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday also you had another proposal to have a demo with 3 robots operating in 3 different countries on a similar test bed with the same targets in the same positions and so on. And the system can pass, and each robot can pass information to the others. This is the other option. Of course, from the point of view of the project, the demonstration with 3 robots is really impressive. I think it's really.
That would be would be the best way to do it. But
Complicated.
conditions around the world may dictate otherwise.
Yeah. The question is, I think in the United States, it's easy to find a suitable test bed with the targets that you have already. But for us, I mean, for you and me, we have to move our robotic system in United States, maybe with some weeks in advance, so just to go there and test and see that everything is working.
I think it's not so easy because you need to export,
Yeah.
okay, and then import again to
Yeah.
Jordan. And you see, we're still getting emails from ClearPath about that the freight forwarder is worried about how long it's taking and it's not finished yet.
Mhm.
So that will not be so easy.
Of course, I make this comment. Also for our importation from ClearPath, we had several steps for bureaucracy because we were purchasing our robot and importing in Italy, and same of you. In case of the test, I think this is another kind of exportation because it's a temporary exportation. I mean, you or your collaborators can travel with this robot.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not an expert, but if I am traveling abroad with a big parcel and say, okay, I'm traveling for 15 days, we say temporary exportation.
It's not an international purchase.
Yes.
So it's, I think the whole process is a lot easier.
Yes, this is an assumption. I don't know Jordan's
I have
rules.
to check.
Yes. I know that when I've gone overseas with gear from the United States with gear that I already own, on your way out, you can get a stamp, you can get it certified that this, I own this and it's coming back with me. And it makes the whole thing a lot easier. I don't know how things are in Jordan.
Yes.
It makes sense what you're
Yeah.
saying. It makes sense, but.
But it could be.
Carnet ATA, it is the modality.
Right, they're carnet companies that do this, yeah.
ATA Carnet is a modality for a temporary export tool, part for expositions, for participate an event, and then training.
It's true, what you're saying makes sense, but I have some strange story from an industrialist. He was in Dubai, and he had like a big lab in a container for water testing and treatment. And this guy decided to bring it to Jordan for an exhibition or something. He was so frustrated. Now, the eventual thing is that he left, he's in Taiwan now. I mean, he gave up the lab for the government to take it. You know, it's like a 40-foot container lab. So I have to check.
Yeah, yes.
I have to check.
Because now, from now to the end of this project, we have to plan and design the final demo. So if we go for a demo with the 3 robots at the same place, and United States maybe is the most convenient place to go for, in my view, it's easier to export temporarily a big robot parcel with a big robot in the United States rather than Ukraine and maybe even Jordan.
Jordan might be a problem.
Yeah.
I know, of course. Well, the terrain in Jordan, of course, there are places where there were landmines near like the Syrian-Palestinian borders. I know the area very well there. Actually, before the what they call the Arab Spring in Syria started. The Norwegian, and I've seen them, the Norwegian expedition, they were clearing the mines in that area. There was no problem, nothing, you know. That tells you something.
Yeah, they were able to get gear in and out somehow.
And that's the area where Syrian, refugees came. Okay, coming because it's only like the Syrian town here. It's only like 1 kilometer from the Jordanian town called Turra, and it's just like a small valley in between. That's the waters.
Yeah.
So they cleared the mines there. They worked for probably a year, and then the thing started.
Okay.
So that's something we should look into and probably make a decision
Yeah,
Yeah.
reasonably quickly,
yeah.
so that we can start getting carnets set up if we need them, that kind of thing.
Also, if you're thinking of an extension near the end of the project,
Mhm.
then maybe we can, based on of course, they have to answer us.
Right, we need a positive answer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Quickly.
And there is another variable in this decision where NATO would like to see the final data.
yeah.
That
Yes.
is another issue because I don't know if they have a special request or desire to see the
In a
demo
country or-
in a partner country that could be, of course, Ukraine, but not now, or Jordan, or in a NATO country like Italy or United States.
Poland or someplace near.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is another variable. But if maybe we can plan now, we can say first priority is to have a demo with 3 robots. Then we have to decide where. Okay. And if your temporary exportation procedures are reasonably fast, I mean, not hours, but maybe days or weeks to be done. And so if this variable can be acceptable, we do the test with 3 robots. In case all these 3 conditions are difficult to meet, we have a plan B that would be the demo separated in 3 different countries with a similar test bed,
Yeah.
with the same 3 targets or 2 targets and the clutter objects,
Yeah.
and demonstrate this. So I think we have to define a plane A and plane B. Plan B. What do you think?
I think that's exactly right, yeah.
I would like also to ask our Ukraine colleague if they follow this conversation in detail, and if they have questions. Hello, Ukraine team?
Thanks. Yes, I hear you. No question. It's I think always good for us.
Okay,
Variants good.
good. And of course, you will be always and constantly part of this preparation of the experiments and the demo. So you have to, at a certain time, to verify your traveling possibility to come here or in Jordan or United States to participate. So the plan A or B will be at the end of the project, and we have another year about.
Yeah.
during this year, if the Ukraine crisis will be solved. I don't know if it is a big word. Anyway, if you can travel and
Well,
come.
we saw last week
Yeah.
that Ukraine allowed Kalush to lead for the
Yes.
Eurovision contest. So maybe they would allow Vadim and the rest of the team to temporarily leave for the NATO demonstration and then return again. Because I think that our partners in Ukraine are every bit as talented as Kalush.
Which is your feeling? I'm asking the Ukraine team. Which is your feeling for the future, for traveling and visit one of the other countries, project countries?
I hope that for some months we have more stable situation, and it could be traveling foreign.
That would be another reason for an extension as well.
Yes.
So that maybe we can put the demonstration off until it's more stable and they're allowed to travel.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, wouldn't NATO probably respond with do the demonstration in 3 different places instead of all congregating into one place, into a similar test bed?
Hard to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like in the case, at least with what we've been observing, it's kind of very hard to tell. And obviously, what we've been told, it's not very predictable what's going to happen, even in the next like year or 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, there could be another pandemic for all we know. So, having a plan as a backup to have 3 of the same test beds in 3 different locations, I think is the safest option. With even. Because the 3 different, we can't guarantee that the 3 different robots will perform the exact same way on our surface. Similarly, we have a robot that's much smaller, much more compact, and has different weight distribution compared to yours.
Oh, because of the
Right.
fittings on it.
Yeah. So it could be that on our grass, it performs amazing, it performs optimally, but when we bring it over, it doesn't do as well.
Yeah.
So if you can design anything that's just optimal for each robot and easiest, at least, even for the scans as well, any type of soil or type of surface that's easier to scan compared to our surface that we have would be, it just highlight the quality of each robot much more easily.
Yeah, that would be one variable between the different beds. There would probably be different soils with different electromagnetic properties.
Yeah.
But that certainly doesn't matter for robot 1, which is going to be LiDAR camera. The soil doesn't matter to us.
It's just the last 2.
And my guess is that for the metal detector, the type of soil is not terribly important.
No.
For radar, it is.
Yeah.
You can't have soils that are too conductive or you lose penetration.
Yeah, because at least how I'm understanding this is that if we're displaying the capabilities of each robot, for example, our robot, we could put that on pavement, a flat field, soccer field, sand, or anything. Essentially, what we're trying to test is the LiDAR and the Greek lines.
And we do want to put it on some relief because we're also testing the ability to spot obstacles. So we would want
put a cone, something, any type of obstacles in front of it.
Yeah, drop a rock in the field.
Right.
Yep.
The original proposal, the original plan was to throw all 3 robots in the same field and have them act sequentially. So having the 3 robots in the same physical location would be consistent with what NATO is expecting, I think, but if that's not feasible.
Yes, because part of the concept was to have them share coordinates, and if we're in 3 different locations, the coordinates that we get from Khaled's metal detector are going to be useless for the other robots.
And I imagine that when you have robots in different physical locations that are widely separated, that adds a dimension of complexity and uncertainty to the demonstration. That I wouldn't want the NATO people to watch this happen in real time, or
Yeah.
communications go down, oh, it doesn't work.
Yeah, we'd be relying, and the time difference too, it's gonna be a.
Yes, yes, we have also to agree a good time,
Yeah,
a good season for all of us.
yeah, and that's another thing that you have to have contingency plan when we're actually on site, if we do decide to be.
What if it pours rain?
Well, yeah, and then the soil becomes. more
Yeah, that's a big
so
delay, and then comes
it's.
You know, if NATO is going to be sending people to watch this demonstration, they may want to do it at one of their facilities or something that's convenient for them, like Brussels or who knows where. But then how do we set up our obstacle course ahead of time?
Yeah.
I feel like it'd
Yeah.
be very, very inconsiderate of them, for them to do that. Another main question I had in terms of the demo. So with our robot back in the States, it'll have the LiDAR capability to detect obstacles, and then ideally the tripwire detection.
Mhm.
So with the demo, when we would have to set up a tripwire and an obstacle to detect.
Yep.
After the fact, what process are we going to go through? So if once we detect a tripwire, let's just say, will we have some method to communicate that to the other two robots
Of course,
to say either completely avoid it
yes,
or
mission aborted.
mission aborted? Okay.
Yep.
So at that point, an obstacle or a tripwire, the mission is completely aborted.
Well, an obstacle, we steer around it. A
Manual.
tripwire, yeah,
Manually, right?
Manual, yes.
And then a tripwire is completely aborted.
Yes,
tripwire,
it's a
yeah.
special condition that requires a special attention and
Okay.
I don't know, other procedures. With-
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that could be the way how we can demonstrate. Of course, we have made an assumption now that the tripwire is successful and we don't know yet.
Yeah.
Likely, but don't know yet. Even the obstacle that is easier in some way than tripwire,
Yeah.
the obstacle detection is
I think that was pretty simple.
pretty simple.
Yeah.
Depends on the obstacles, of
Yeah.
course, but it's pretty simple.
And another thing to consider at least is that from what we saw yesterday in the performance on the field, we may have to change the sensitivity of the obstacle avoidance or obstacle detection, because a divot of a very small size
Mhm.
could be an extremely difficult obstacle to navigate over for the robot due to the small wheels, and we would have to decrease the pressure on the tires or increase or.
We can define that ahead of time.
Right.
What size, diameter, and depth of the divot, because we have the wheel diameter
Mhm.
and the chassis clearance and the wheel base.
Yeah,
That, I think I sent you a spreadsheet months ago
Yeah.
that has the morphological filter that calculates
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So we could go the other direction. Well, we could either feed the topography that we're getting through the morphological filter and get a warning that there's something coming that I can't get over.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way we're gonna have to do it, because we can't define ahead of time the dimensions of a bump.
right,
The bump is there.
Yeah, the bumps,
right.
the bump's there. And if we're running the morphological filter on the terrain model constantly,
Mhm.
then it will know
Okay.
that, okay, this is something that I can't get over.
Got it.
Are the soil conditions in Lancaster similar to the soil conditions in the garden here? I mean, it's a kind of dirt, it's kind of the same.
The soil composition?
Yeah,
It's actually quite different.
oh, it is.
Yeah.
We have-
And it depends on the season too, obviously.
We have residual clays that developed over limestone. They're actually, our soils are not too much different from Ukraine, except that they have a lot more organic material. They have this black Chernozem, yeah. Ours doesn't have as much organic material in it. I think electromagnetically, it's similar to the soils in Ukraine.
So that might be another argument to pick Lancaster as as the test bed, if we can get all the robots together, so that it's these soil conditions are similar, more similar to what we expect in Ukraine.
Yeah, and I think the geomorphology of the landscape is
Yeah.
rather similar as well.
But that might be another thing to consider, you know, if the HSR is trying to image mines using the field here, will produce the same results if you plop the robot down on the field in Lancaster, or will it be different? I don't know. Are the soil conditions sufficiently different that you would expect?
We've done a bit of testing. We have a 2 gigahertz. That's what that blue paint bucket is up in our lab.
Yeah.
And a number of years ago, we did some outdoor testing, and it seemed to have about the same penetration in Pennsylvania as it does here. Now, and yours is even better now because that one didn't have the quadrature
Yes.
component for doing the full reconstruction.
Yes.
That one, we were just getting interference patterns.
And maybe we can also do some tests before the final demo, going with our robot in Lancaster.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you prepare the.
It's because you might have to deal with like network issues, like reconfiguring your robot, and stuff like that. It's just as far as like setting up the base station. So it would, I'd say like at least like a week before to do like preliminary tests. So that's also something you have to consider, including like timeline with customs and everything like that. Because
I'm talking about tripwire.
Yeah.
Now, is it true most tripwires are metallic? Or
Tripwire, well, Colin King tells us that all official militaries use metal tripwires. But I'm pretty sure that in conflict zones, people improvise. You know, in fact, this is something that maybe we can have our Ukrainian friends look into. I know that when the Russians left the area around Kiev, they left behind a lot of booby traps and tripwires, and it would be interesting to see if there's any information on what those were. Were they metal wires, or did they use whatever string or thread or fishing line they had available?
because if it was metallic, then maybe with some like small modification on the mechanism, maybe you can detect the tripwire by the metal detector. You know, I don't know if you have done any testing on that. Tripwire.
No, we haven't, but
it's a small
you have a
margin.
piece of tripwire from
Yes,
this one.
today, in the
Let's-
evening, in the afternoon, we have.
Let's get it out and see if that metal detector.
I think
Fix
it's
it
very-
up.
I think it's very speedy.
The same sample of tripwire we got from Phoenix, that you will have in your box from Phoenix when the box will be delivered in Jordan.
It will be extra because I think we will not order it.
Oh, I ordered it for you.
Okay.
Oh,
I asked Zoe and Colin to put it in the box for you, so you'll get a sample.
It's not in the list of items we paid, but
No.
I think it's an extra.
It's a freebie they threw in.
Bonus.
Yep.
So for the tripwire detection, at least from what I've read two different, the metal detection is one possibility, but we like how Eric was saying, it's very fine margins. So if you're sticking a metal detector in terms of like an arm's reach length, you have to be very careful with the robotics movement of not setting off the tripwire and losing the robot. So that could be one issue that we could run into. The other approach I've seen is if we assume that the tripwire is made of metal, it leaves a heat signature that isn't similar to the nature or the at least like the soil around it. I've seen, in fact, we were speaking yesterday about drones, and the use of drones is a lot of the times these drones fly over a lot of these fields and try to detect heat signatures of these metallic wires that in the night would have not dissipated the heat compared to the soil below it. And in terms of the image detection, hopefully today we can get an idea of how accurate it is. And I'm sure over time we'll develop a little better, but with the metal detection, like Tim was saying, I think in conflict zones, a lot of military groups improvise. And I would assume that it's more likely for string, fishing lines to be used, stuff that isn't ideal. Military, and are mines even planted anymore technically? Isn't it a war crime for anti-personnel mines to be planted technically by militaries?
Yes, there's the anti-personnel mine ban treaty that nearly every country in the world has signed now. But the United States has not, and Russia hasn't, and China has not.
Understood.
Israel has not, Pakistan and India have not. So
That is quite
Quite a large military, right?
Yeah.
So
quite large.
in this case, then,
interestingly,
About
Ukraine did
80%
join
of the
the
salary.
anti-personnel mine ban treaty, and they were well on their way to getting rid of all their anti-personnel mines.
yeah, as we've seen, war crimes are kind of happening in various instances, but at least for what we can understand, the consistent detail of all these tripwires is that it's a line that stands out from the shrubs or stands out from something behind it in the image. That's at least how we've approached the most accurate. And I'm very curious to see if maybe later on in the timeline of the project, we can use a drone to see the heat signature of potentially metallic tripwires, because it is very
We
interesting.
use infrared thermal camera,
That could be as well, that could be used too.
but we did some tests with that, and it was not very effective in detecting.
Because it's infrared, it's longer wavelengths. so
Oh,
the resolution
right.
isn't as good.
Yeah, you need the high resolution.
And for any thermal method, you have relatively short time windows
Yeah.
after the sun comes up or after the sun
Sun
goes down.
yeah.
You know, there's that period where the thermal inertia of the vegetation in the wire or the soil in the mine, they're different, so they lag. You know, but then by the time you get a few hours out, they're at the same temperature. So it's kind of a now you see me, now you don't kind of thing. It cycles twice a day.
Guys, what are the names of the metal detector models that we were using yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah. Do you remember? Is
The
it
Cheia.
Cheia?
CEIA.
Okay, that's a military one.
That is the
Big one.
manufacturer.
Okay, yeah.
The
The new one was
the other
something
one-
800, wasn't it?
It was a Fisher M100.
Fisher M100. Okay, I just wanted to.
But I don't remember the Cheia model.
I see you.
Okay.
I think it is in the, also the report by Munst and
Okay.
Mattia.
There's a record in the.
Report, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, you can also scan the manual if you wish to see
Yeah, I was thinking.
capability and characteristic. So, just to summarize one point of the discussion we started today, for the final test, we are first oriented to evaluate the full team of 3 robots. That is priority plan A, 3 robots where we have to decide according to possible temporary exportation if the demo will be not in Jordan. Of course, we can also evaluate how is the complexity for us to go to Jordan, because maybe there is the other option that NATO would like to see the final demo in Jordan, because you are a partner country of this project. And so we have to evaluate our problem to have a temporary exportation to Jordan. And for me, it's very easy to know. Maybe today I have a very good friend of mine that has a big exportation company. And maybe in 1 or 2 days before you leave, we know that. How difficult it is from Italy to travel with this big parcel in Jordan and come back 15 days or a week.
For me, doing it from the US is simple. I've done it dozens, if not hundreds of times.
Yeah.
So
And probably also for us, probably.
Yeah, I would have no worries about taking any equipment anywhere. You know,
Okay,
I've done the procedure. You go to the airport before you leave,
Yeah.
and they inspect it, and they put a stamp on it, and this is coming back, right? And on the way back, they see the stamp on it, and everything's good.
what do you feel on your experience, Khaled? It is feasible for you to organize, I don't know, we have a discussion now.
If we would all come to you for the final demonstration, would that?
Well, that depends on, there are several factors. One is, how long are we gonna be away?
No, we're talking about coming to you.
Oh, coming to Jordan is not, I think, you can import things and we can get them released, I hope, after our experience with our robots. I think we can get them to come in, but we don't guarantee that they'll be allowed out.
Yeah. I think we can get in and out, but what it would do is it would, well, either it would put the task of preparing the test bed for the final demonstration on you, or maybe we would need to send some people over to work with your team to put the test bed together ahead of time.
Within the university, you have plenty of land and.
7 kilometers by 2 kilometers, right?
Yes. I've done some experiments on even preserving moisture around small trees because of the everyday.
Okay.
And you can go and just put a fencing around it.
That might be the easiest solution.
No, this is another option.
Yeah.
And that depends on NATO.
Yeah, they need to have some guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, the timeline, like around what time, like what month is this taking place?
So I think the project ends next September.
Next September.
So next
September,
summer.
2023.
Yeah, we're certainly hoping that we get some extension because of the difficulties, but in the most stringent case, it would be
Next summer will be.
late next summer, yeah.
Another issue is whether we would need Wi-Fi and or power, AC power, by the test bed.
Yeah.
And we have that at F&M. That was not a big issue. Maybe it's not necessary. Something like that.
Around the building, we have some good Wi-Fi.
So, shall I summarize for the final demo? Okay, final demo say now September 2023. Okay. The option A is to have a demo with 3 robots. Together. Where? That is the second question. Where? One option is United States or Jordan. Okay. And that depends on, of course, your availability of both. But I think today you have said you are available for organizing this. The second question is the capability of robots to be navigated with a nice horizon. Because here, for me, is okay, but we have seen that, especially in this garden, we have difficulties. Of course, we can move to the other big garden that we have there, and maybe the horizon is better. Maybe.
Yeah.
We have not
I think it would definitely be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe United States or Jordan are the best places. Okay. And so the conditions of navigation in Jordan, you haven't tested yet because your robot is not arrived in your lab. But once you have tested the conditions for navigation, that are suitable and reliable, we have to decide, we can decide, USA or Jordan. So.
Another thing about Firenze though, is as we learned yesterday,
Yeah.
there's a lot of extraneous stuff in your soil here.
Yeah,
So if we were to want to make a test bed here that we really knew everything about, we'd have to go through the procedure we did yesterday
Yeah.
and scan everything and take out all the little bits of spring and wire and.
yeah. I would like to notice just a brief note that yesterday we found a sharpener of the maybe is the Second World War grenade sharpener.
Yeah.
Oh,
So yesterday we have really done something related to this project.
Right, related to an actual conflict.
By chance, it was not programmed, but I'm sure or pretty sure that this piece of metal comes from a grenade of the Second World War. Remember that our building, and you can see it still on the wall, there are patches that comes from the shelling of the Second World War.
Yeah.
So yesterday we had a real practical things that after 80 years in a country where we had heavy bombing and long duration.
We can expand the area and look for more.
Find more, yes.
I remember you also another news that every year in Italy, we find still big air bombs during excavation procedures when we build major buildings or bridges or roads, motorways. They are still there, many.
Yeah.
I remember this, just a year or two ago, they were extending the runway in Bari.
Yeah.
And they hit several big bombs and had to stop the construction project until they.
So just a few notes.
Sunday, we have closed, I don't remember where in Italy.
Yeah.
Place for
Really?
removing a bomb.
Yes, because the shallow buried objects like landmines now are almost clear. It's very rare to find inactive landmines of the Second World War, while the heavy bombing from B-52 airplane, maybe you know, Americans, they bombs Italy and other with big bomber. B-52 bombs are 500 kilograms, almost. And so they last for forever, I mean, for a very long time. Anyway, so just to summarize, the idea is to option A, to have a demo with the 3 robots where USA or Jordan, okay, we have to make an assessment about the reliable connection for navigation in Jordan, and I hope we have no problem in the United States.
US,
With
no.
Wi-Fi will be no problem there.
Wi-Fi, but also just as far as the navigation. It's
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
And the other things is NATO.
Yeah, their
NATO
preference.
choice.
Don't give them
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
NATO preferred choice, of course. NATO maybe is willing to come to Jordan, or NATO say, okay, it's more flexible to go to United States.
The United States mimics the conditions in Ukraine a little bit better. I don't know if that is a factor
Mhm.
in terms of terrain and soil. We don't have shrapnel, I don't think, unless it's from the Civil War.
Yeah, only if we tested in Gettysburg.
But yesterday was really impressive.
It was cool.
How many things we found.
Yeah, all the little bits, soda can pull tab, it was sensitive to
Oh,
that.
yeah, it was really strong.
Okay, plan B. Yes.
Also the custom regulations.
Oh, yes, import,
Jordan.
export, sorry, thank you very much. Export temporary. From each country to another country. Depends on where we have to go. From Jordan, Italy, and USA. But USA, I understand it's easier.
Yeah.
We have only to check for maybe for exporting temporarily from Jordan to USA, or for us to importing temporarily in Jordan. Okay. So this is option A. Shall I say that option B could be easier to have a demo in 3 different countries, okay? The demo in 3 different countries makes more complex the demo, because we have to find what we have to design a test field very similar, a test field where our robot can navigate reliably, and sandy soil, pure sand. I don't know. I don't think it's possible. Even if we improve the grip of our wheels, because we have seen our wheels that are small are also quite close. The heavy structure we have, not so easy to navigate on sandy soil. So we have to establish another kind of soil that we can prepare, of course, with more compact and dense soil. And then we have to do experiment. For us, it's not a problem to demonstrate in an area.
For navigation, we need also a big, for demonstrate the navigation, the autonomous navigation, we need
a relatively large area, yeah. And it would be impossible to make not only will the soils be different, but it would be impossible to make the relief the same in these 3 different beds. And the word cooperate is right in the title of our project. So they wouldn't really be cooperating, because they'd be getting they wouldn't be sharing real coordinates, because they're in different parts of the world. And the robot number 1 who's spotting obstacles, they may not exist in the other 2 test beds.
I mean, yeah, well, just by the sake of like divots and like.
Just out of curiosity, do you think if we were to make a 10 meter by 10 meter testing bed, right? If we know the coordinate, the 0, 0 coordinate is the bottom left corner of this Gridline area, couldn't we plant our specific mines at coordinate 2, 3, and we have this, technically we won't have the same coordinate, but we have in the communication, we found a coordinate, or we found a mine at 2, 3, and we'll send the robots at this point at every single time.
We have an ungeoreferenced local coordinate system that was the same.
Which
one.
in any case, I don't think it should be too difficult to like communicate with each of these.
This is a very good point. Also, we discussed yesterday with Pierluigi after the meeting. I think that for this demo, we have to move to a local reference system that is not the georeference system, because actually I must say that ClearPath has not yet provided a solution to have a 5 centimeter accuracy with the georeference system. Yesterday maybe we have difficult horizon, but they didn't tell us that we needed a perfect horizon. Yes, so probably we have pushing the limit of technology in our application for GPS. Of course, if ClearPath provide us other solution, I don't know, with a 2 base station or another antenna configuration, but it is a long process. Even I think if we have the right to ask them to solve the problem, I think it takes time anyway. I don't know what is your view on this. So I think we have to move anyway to a local reference system where the 0, coordinate is defined by, I don't know, a method. And the test field is built according to one coordinate system, local.
Right. So not
Otherwise,
even using
But
GPS at all.
don't we still need the GPS to navigate even within that local reference system? Because how,
Well, I mean,
we can't,
you could just literally define the grid and say,
but how does the robot keep track of it? Just by bearing and distance using?
I'm
the
assuming
magnetometer and
it's
distance traveled, or
it just takes the velocity and the time travel and just measures the distance of it.
so bearing and distance?
It gets tricky, if the wheels start slipping, you get easily off course.
True.
Yeah.
So the GPS, seems like that's an important factor,
to keep
keep
it,
it kind of
yes.
connected to these local.
Because ideally, like an ideal surface where there's like no slip or anything, and we could do it like that, but
I
obviously.
mean, errors I tend to add, you go along a Gridline,
Yeah.
you get off by a centimeter, next thing you know.
Right.
Right, you're done.
Yeah, if you're doing it bearing and distance,
Yeah.
the errors are additive.
Yeah.
They accumulate as you go.
When you're doing sharp turns, you got easily.
Yes, and it wobbles to stability, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so in your experience, I'm asking you that you had the experience. It's easy to define a reference point on the test field and respect to the reference point that is the start position.
I think this is a good question to clear.
Yeah, because like we can display it as in terms of like a reference point, like an XY sort of axes, as opposed to like you can just switch the setting and redefine like where you start is like 0, 0. So you could do it like that, but we're trying to coordinate 3 robots respectively based on like a coordinate system, just like that, as opposed to being in the same spot. It would be tough.
In terms of getting accurate navigation within and without GPS in a local coordinate system, we talked about this a bit yesterday. The people who have solved this are iRobot with the Roomba.
Yeah.
It does not use
yeah.
GPS.
You
And
just
we're
send
going to
it
have an iPhone or a camera on everything. The Roomba vacuum does it
just by bang.
it builds a visual model of its surroundings. It's photogrammetry, basically. You know, you look at a scene from different directions and you can reconstruct dimensions, everything.
I think what we were talking about yesterday, how trying to take advantage of other GPS, maybe even non-GPS with this iRobot technologies could really, maybe not completely taking out the ClearPath GPS system, but at least assisting it or improving it. And at this point, if we are planning on using a local axis or system, a way to test it, looking into some of these technologies, even buying an extra piece that we could stick on the robot that could really help us would be interesting to see. Because in theory, we only need something that leaves a breadcrumb trail and then understands an axis system of how far it's traveling, maybe using GPS, maybe using other technology. I'm curious to see what the iRobot, how it does that locally, at least.
Yeah, I think it does it visually, and it has a distance sensor. It has, you know, kind of maybe a 1-channel or several channel LiDAR.
Yeah.
And we have a spot where it starts. Not even its base, because I know it talks to its base, but if we go to a different part of the house and put it down, when its battery is getting low, it finds its way back to exactly that spot, into the closure area. After going all through the house, if the battery's getting low, it comes and parks right in that spot and sends you a text message.
Oh, dear.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You need also orientation,
Yeah.
so it doesn't get to X and Y, you know.
Yeah.
You need also.
Yeah. It knows not just X and Y, but it knows its orientation as well. And I think it must do that optically. Maybe it's got a compass built in, I don't know. But iRobot has, if we tried to do this, we would be reinventing their wheel. They would-
Exactly. I think at least reaching out to them, asking them, how do you do it? What do you use?
Yeah, we're not a competitor.
Right.
I mean, unless we start to
And
strap a vacuum
there are-
onto it, I don't think.
Right,
we'll
I
care.
think their efforts would be almost seen as like philanthropic in a sense, they're
Yeah.
helping, they're not really, it's for a good cause, so. Reaching out to a lot of these companies that have great robotic navigation systems on their own and asking them, just at least, how do you do it?
Yeah.
What's your methodology? And then do you suggest anything that we could do? Because in principle, it is essentially it's the same thing. We're vacuuming a space of a 10 by 10 meter, and you could set up an iRobot to do the exact same thing. And
Maybe they even share algorithms or even code.
And I bet the Gridline system, the iRobot uses for a vacuum is essentially the same exact thing.
It does. I can't tell you how happy I am when I come home and I
You can
see
see a
those
working
green lines on
Gridline.
the carpet. You know, when the furniture's in the way, we've anthropomorphized her already. She'll go around it, but in a wide open piece of floor,
Yeah.
it's a Gridline. It's really amazing.
Safety is an obstacle. Safety.
Actually, we know that it's visual because if you walk in front, she pauses until you're out of the way, and then she continues on her line.
Also, when Ugo was sleeping and the robot was around him, he was not afraid, but he opened an eye and moved a bit, but he was not afraid.
Yeah.
And the robot avoided.
Went around it, yeah.
So I think that if option A is feasible and we have defined where and all problems, the problem of georeference is not a problem, because in USA we have 5 centimeter accuracy almost.
Yeah.
And we have maybe in Jordan the same, because your horizon, and I think I expect that you can confirm. Yeah, no problem. Good. If option A for several reasons is difficult, we will go to option B, that is more complex, and certainly we need to ask assistance and help to clear that, because the complexity, especially in our condition, for the georeference system, we need probably to move to a local reference, and makes also the system more difficult to manage.
Yeah. And we would need to develop technology for it to be able to work.
Yeah, that
in
was
local references.
that was not in the project plan. So it's something that we need to add. Of course, we have the option to go in our garden there, and I don't know if we have time this week, but maybe we can go next week to see if the horizon there is better.
Yeah. That's actually a pretty simple test. We could almost do that with iPhone.
Yeah.
Because I was out here with my iPhone, it was estimating its accuracy as 16 feet, diameter 16 feet. We could just go down to this garden and see
Okay, yes.
what kind of improvement we get.
We can do.
Yeah.
Well, when we go to the canteen, before or just, the garden is there.
It's just down the hill from that.
Yeah, downhill 10 meters.
Okay, well, we have a lunchtime experiment to do.
Yes, lunchtime experiment, yeah. So I think for the final demo, we have a more clear plan.
Yep.
Maybe we have to decide the soil that could be Jordan or USA in order to define maybe some ideas of penetration.
Yeah.
Okay, because for radar, penetration is one of the big problems in very attenuating soil, like a clay. Clay is one of the worst soil for attenuation at 2 gigahertz. We have to establish if 5 centimeter depth is reachable, is achievable or not. That is one. The other option that we can maybe today discuss is the path, the gridline dimension. Yesterday we had done experiment on some dimension.
1 meter.
1 meter
Distance.
along the two lines, parallel lines, distance. Maybe 1 meter, in my view, is too much, because we have to cover completely with our radar and your metal detector the width of a lane. And so if we have lanes, parallel lanes, we have to cover completely the surface.
Yeah.
Also with some overlaps, maybe 2-3 centimeters overlaps.
Yeah,
It's important the area scanned by the metal detector, because our robot can arrive directly on the target.
Yeah.
Apply.
yeah, so the lane width is really gonna be defined by Khaled's team.
Yes.
The length of the arm and the angle through which it swings. Yeah,
And it would be nice if it could be, because it struggles with having the points very close, so
Yeah.
the wider the lanes
Yeah.
can be, the better.
No, you think it struggles because,
Well,
if they're too close, it presents a problem in terms of going from point A to point B, or what's
just
just
as far as like setting up the missions, it's pretty hard to get them close.
We can use the
So-
mechanical.
oh, the adapter's right there in the.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. So this is the start point. These are the waypoints here, 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 and this is the end. Okay. If current robots can provide a oscillating arm that cover the wide lane, okay? The width of the lane shall be W, for example, and W, of course, define the delta is delta being the distance, okay, between two parallel lanes. I wish to say that we need some overlap.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 5 centimeters to be sure that all the area is covered completely.
Right.
And for the dimension, I think now is 2-3 meters.
Yes. 4 meters.
4 meters about. Okay. 4 meters is enough to have a significant angle.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
You don't need to cover a large area. I mean, the large area implicates more battery, more time.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, and you have to also consider like it's gonna be slowed down because you have to take your
Yeah.
time sweeping. So
Yeah.
you also have to think about the rate that it is
Yeah.
covering the lane.
in this area, of course, we can decide to have obstacles. I don't know.
Yeah, so one of those Greek lines may,
Yes, for chip
I
one.
have what is the dimension that we can scan?
Oh, for this, I think for the sweeping, right?
yeah,
It-
that's, what sort of width do you picture?
Well, we have to cover at least, of course, larger the width of the robot itself.
Yeah,
That's in most of the robots work with. Meaning you have to clear the area, okay, where the wheels are going to tread.
Right, yes,
Otherwise, although we're working with minimum weights,
Of course.
Yeah.
minimum weight, I'll show you first more.
okay, great.
Tomorrow you will show the video.
Yeah, I have two videos, one of the robots that I have worked with, developed, and so on, and one was the four-wheeled robot.
Sorry, I
Okay,
will go back.
with detection and removal
Yeah.
of the landmine.
Hmm.
Of course, the removal part is challenging, but in sand we did it. And I'm using now an excavation technique of the second robot to dig some pneumatic holes.
Mhm.
So you're using a robot to dig up the mine. And
It detects and at the same time it.
how sensitive are the mines? In the sense that in the process of digging them up,
It depends upon the type of mine. There's some that you really can't move. They have to be blown in place. The little green bullfrog, the type 72, you can't move those. They have a motion detector switch, and then once they're armed, you have to blow them in place. But
Accidents
most,
cannot be avoided sometimes.
yeah,
Happens.
but most, and I think at least the mines that are common or were common in Ukraine prior to this latest invasion, none of those had motion detector switches in them. They didn't have, say, mercury switches or anything. So those can be yanked out.
okay.
I think there are in Ukraine few evidence of vibration or acceleration switches installed on the landmine, but
Yeah.
not so many.
And then I'm very curious to see how it's removed using the robot. I want to see the I want to see.
We're
I think we're gonna get some videos tomorrow.
Yes.
I want to see
Bring the popcorn.
the process. It's really interesting.
If I could draw a picture for a moment. Bernie and I were talking about this last night. The metal detectors seem to work so well. We found the edges, we could define a circular target. But then as he got over the center of it, the sound rose, so there's in cross section, I don't know the width of it relative to the mine itself, but there's something, the response like this. So in plan view, as your robot's moving along, it's going to be collecting data, something like this. And as Lorenzo pointed out, right on that M100, there's a headphone jack. And we could almost, maybe even in an F&M, I bet we could get a headphone plug and a small A to D converter and feed that to a data recorder of some kind and make a heat map, do a plan view color contour, a heat map, and look at what the signatures look like for the different mines in our collection and correlate the heat map to the actual dimensions of the mine.
Yeah.
So
And that device might be, you might be able to just buy one on Amazon, maybe.
yeah, it might already exist. Yeah, they're already typing.
Yeah, right, yeah. They
So,
have water
can I-
pros.
This is a very important point because during the discussion, plenary discussion we had during the last year, your team said that it's possible to have images derived by the scanning of metal detectors. I understand. Well, images of one parameters that could be, I don't know, the coil reaction of frequency shift during the scan. Okay, you can collect point by point one parameters or more parameters from the metal detector. That could be the intensity or the frequency generated by the metal detector electronics. Okay, so if you record point by point, spatial point, this data, maybe you can form an image, even if you have a sparse spatial sampling, but can be used to match other images like microwave images, if they are correlated. And again, if we use the 3 demo altogether, the 3 robots with the demo, it's easy to correlate spatially the data. If we have 3 different locations and so on, becomes quite big complex task. And so we cannot correlate, and that makes the data fusion easily.
And I think one of the really good things is if we have a metal detector image, a plan view, kind of a heat map or an image of some kind that we can correlate with the hologram.
Yeah.
That does 2 things. One, it gets at what Ethan mentioned. If there are specific types of mines that shouldn't be removed, we can recognize targets that might be ones that you don't want to try and dig up. And also, if there's a specific signature for mines that's different from clutter, like crushed cans or bits of shrapnel or springs, you know, we can, I think that's one of the big things, is to discriminate mines from clutter, because at the moment, humanitarian demining is expensive trash collection.
Yes.
Maybe 2 points are enough. You know, if you start scanning from left to right and then from right to left, you can confirm these 2 points, and then can maybe draw a circle or an ellipse, something like this. But sometimes if there is a suspicious, there is a signal, then maybe you can move back a little bit and scan, then to the front, a few centimeters, and scan again.
Yeah. We were wondering if it's possible to, as it's sweeping, record some parameters. So whatever, I don't know whether it's based on voltage or current, but that metal detector is feeding to a speaker.
Yeah.
And somehow that, you know, the speaker's reacting to whatever it's being fed, whether it's a voltage or a current, I don't know. But if we could digitize whatever's being fed to that speaker, we could, if we have the positioning of the robot and there's a way of registering where the arm is in its sweep, we would have a position for that voltage or current. And that could be contoured spatially to make we get a plan view image of the target, not just a dimension of it, but we'd see the shape of the response.
You'd have an amplitude for every spatial location.
Yeah.
And
Is the shape important, or is it a bell curve or Gaussian distribution?
It may be different for different mines, and that could give us a metal detector signature. That if we have a metal detector signature and a holographic radar signature, and we've built a library of these for mines, we can start to recognize mines rather than just targets. Yeah.
Good. Well, I was thinking that would be where sort of what metal detector we would use would come into play, because I feel like the military grade had a larger range of like frequency as opposed to the Fisher.
I mean, the sound
change. So,
more.
because it was more of just sort of like, there's a little bit at the beginning, but it was mainly just like a switch on and off for the Fisher, it seems, with some slight, variation. But for the military grade one, there was a larger range that you could play with. That you could focus.
If we want to mimic the hologram, then definitely we have to scan a certain spot many times.
Or just move forward slowly as it's sweeping back and forth. Yeah.
I think in the sweeping motion, the robot should be standstill. Okay. I think it's better.
So I drew this as if it's continuously moving. So if it stayed still, then we have data
Yeah.
like this,
Yes,
right?
It's a lot of time.
that's why I say, you just back up a little bit, even centimeters, 1 centimeter at a time. Just mimicking what they were doing, rather a sparkler.
Yeah, that's basically what we were doing, is going up to the target and
Yeah.
sensing it from all directions.
What would
But it would be nice to, as it sweeps over, to record whatever this response is, because the different targets may have a kind of a different, as you said, it might be a bell curve, or who knows, it might, for some of these targets, there might just be a little bit of metal in it, so that, there's just something really sharp just over that bit of metal.
Yeah, it's possible.
So the combination of a heat map from the metal detector data plus the hologram, we might be able to start.
You can register those two things on top.
Yeah, discriminating mines from clutter, and maybe even determining mine types.
This approach of standing, of the robot being still when scanning. One thing I noticed with your robot is that it has a mechanism on it that allows the sensor to move regardless of the robot's movement. Where it's just the microwave is just going almost in like a square pattern that is attached to your robot.
It swirls, it does kind of a square spiral, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in this case, where if you're suggesting that we move 1 centimeter at a time, I think we would have, it's impossible to do that with the robot.
Oh, only when you spot a
Right.
landmine, then you do this, if you want to have something similar to the hologram. Otherwise, you have only like, let's say, several points on a certain plane.
Yeah, because if we were to do that with 1 centimeter at a time, we would have to have something like yours where it's built as like a 1 meter by 1 meter.
Yes.
And moving one meter at a time. Another big thing is a lot of what we've discussed today is great in the sense that we can get a good image of what we're looking at, what the size is, if it's a landmine, everything else. But I think all like everything that we're intending to develop with each of these robots, everything comes back to the GUI GUI. In the sense that not only do we need a way for the operator to see this, but we need an archive of everything that we do see. In the sense that if there are 4 landmines in a 5 by 5 meter area, the GUI will display it in the sense that it'll show it, but we need a way at least to archive that information to say this is at coordinate this. And I think the most technical and most difficult aspect of the project by a mile, because there's a lot of back end stuff that we need to adjust and tinker with and develop to get it right, because the input information isn't too hard in the sense that we're lucky enough to have expertise to know what we're doing in almost every regard. The back end information of getting that input process archived, display it correctly, efficiently, and displayed at the right time is important.
Yeah, because there's gonna be a whole lot coming in from a camera, from a LiDAR, from a metal detector.
And they're coming in at different times.
Yeah.
So we have a metal detector sending in information about a specific coordinate
Yes.
at a specific time, and we need to hope that information is archived with the same coordinate, same piece of metal as others, because it could be a catastrophic mistake on the back end side if a tin can is labeled as a tin can at a specific coordinate, but in reality it's a landmine that needs to be removed.
I agree with you, and if you remember yesterday when I spot one of the critical part of project management was about task 1 for 1.43, that is GUI GUI development, because this is a very critical task for the success of this project. So today and the next months, maybe I would like really to form a team of collaborators. We will have, of course, one extra member, that is Emanuele Vignoli, yes, that will be devoted completely to develop the data fusion mechanism and maybe GUI, but I don't know his expertise in doing this part.
Will we be able to meet him?
No, now he's on traveling in Spain for Erasmus, so he will be back in June. Okay.
I'm thinking of,
Yeah.
What about,
Yeah, I think that part of this may be a question for our Ukrainian
Yes.
friends as well. If they have been following this conversation and see what we need here, it's going to be some development of the architecture of it and then coding it.
Yeah.
And if you know, Maxime, Vadim Plakti, any of these folks want to plug in, we would love to get them involved in that.
Maxime and Vadim Plakti, did you follow? Maybe they're on a coffee break.
It's possible.
I'm here.
Bond's coming.
What do you think, a coffee break now, or we will postpone after the lunch? Lunch is 12:30.
12:03. Quick coffee break.
A quick coffee,
Yeah.
just to relax the mind. Can I give a message maybe to Maxime and Vadim Plakti that this is possible?
you wanna type it in, maybe? Chat.
Yeah.
What time should we connect?
Hi Maxime.
I think I have my bag change here. The coffee machine.
Can you hear us?
There's Maxime.
Can we go to you and Vadim Plakti, he's online in 15 minutes? 10, 15 minutes? Vadim, sorry, Maxime.
We are going to get some coffee now. Can you hear? Can you hear? Okay, we're gonna get coffee now. We will return in 15 minutes. And we would like to discuss with you, and also if Vadim Plakti is available, some ideas for 15 minutes. Yes. Some ideas for involvement in GUI development, graphical user interface for displaying sensor data. Is that okay if we come back and discuss with you possibilities?
15 minutes, great.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting.
Maybe they could have some input on algorithms and how to do the data fusion as well. in my coin bag. Steal this. Double one. There we go. I think the things we're gonna need help on. One is maybe a bit of research about what kinds of tripwires they have really been finding. And that's probably gonna be a matter of hunting through social media, like Telegram, hunting, which someone who speaks Ukrainian, can hunt through Telegram, look for that information.
What if they
They could really use that.
do, they have connections with the SES?
Yeah. Yep.
There were a couple of SE guys that were on the call one time.
Yeah, they're one of our end users. I'm sure they're
Right.
really busy
Yeah.
now, but they might, and they probably wouldn't talk to us, but maybe they would talk to
Give us
to somebody in the country.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Start up again there. And then GUI, and then
GPR. Oh, the SE.
algorithms or thinking about how to do data fusion.
Right. I know. There's no fan. Hey, Luca, can I ask you a question?
So you tell me you spilled water?
I think I did. Yeah, that's why I couldn't open.
I don't know. What is this?
It's been 5 years. Way before, I cannot love the country. And
Birthday. Can you hear?
Yes, we hear you.
I heard Vadim. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Ah, great. Okay. You may have heard the conversation just before our coffee break. Ethan was talking about the GUI that we're going to need to build and all of the information that's going to be sent from various sensors, the camera, the LiDAR, for Khaled's team, the metal detector. There's going to be a lot of sort of computer program architecture and coding work to be done. And if we're going to have metal detector data and holographic radar, we're going to need to figure out how to fuse those or present them simultaneously or correlate them in some fashion. So we've got a lot of computational and coding things that we're wondering if you might be able to work on, because it's stuff that maybe you could do from wherever you are. You don't have to be in a lab. So if it's okay with the rest of the Ukraine team. So Vadim, I don't want to steal your people, but if we could get Maxime to help us with the coding and architecture and algorithms for handling data, we'd love to plug Maxime in with our crew and have him working with them. And I think I saw a thumbs up from Maxime, so it's okay with him.
It's not my main experience, but I can try to build some, help to build some architecture to exchange data from radar to our computing machine.
That would be great. I don't think any of us are really experts, so we've actually talked about maybe hiring a consultant to help us. But so if you don't have, if it's not exactly your field of expertise, that's okay, because it's not us either. The other thing that we've talked about is we've seen lots of news reports of tripwires running to booby traps in areas that where the Russians have been driven out. And we're wondering what those tripwires are made of. Are they exclusively using string or fishing line or metal wire? And I'm not sure that there's anywhere, I mean, maybe state emergency services would know, but we're wondering if somebody who speaks the local language might be able to hunt through Telegram or some other social media sites and see if you can find any accounts of what the tripwire materials are that they're finding. Does that make sense?
As I understand, there are a lot of fishing line using for tripwire. So it's a usual things for this purpose in Ukraine territory.
Vadim, could you repeat that, Vadim? I didn't understand.
Sorry?
Can you say that again?
Okay, I said that a fishing line is a usual thing which used for tripwire in at this moment.
Okay. So
As I can see.
that's very helpful. Thank you. So we will definitely want to be doing experiments with fishing line.
Have you done more? Have you done anything with the camera fishing line or just metal?
No, just metal
Just
wires.
metal, okay.
And
That's where Colin King was steering us, but
yeah,
I think he's thinking completely in terms of regular disciplined
Yeah.
military.
Yeah.
He's not thinking
Improv
terrorists.
is, yes, improv is
And yeah, I think I just called them
excluded
terrorists.
ordnance. That is another big issue.
Yeah,
So,
okay, great, thank you.
so going back to the conversation with Maxime, and Tim has invited you to join a working group made by you, I think Vadim Plakti, that has experience also in artificial intelligence. And I suggest to include in this group also our collaborator Emanuele Vignoli, that will be in June back to Italy from Spain, and maybe one of you that one or more of you that are willing to join this group. We started the GUI development according to a possibility for Ricardo. Ricardo was one of our collaborators. He started to do some very preliminary design of GUI.
I think Andrew can give us a brief presentation on that at some point, and not necessarily right now. But, yeah.
Maybe we can go to the folder of the project on task 1.43 and see what we develop according to also to your presentation. But of course, we don't need to develop a very fancy and professional GUI, something that is easy to use, maybe not the best, but something practical and useful to do our experiment. I mean, something very basic, but working properly.
And just efficient enough that it can handle the rate at which data is coming in.
Yes, yes.
And the different sources of data all coming in at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, Lorenzo.
Please.
As I know, interface has for backend and for forward end. So if you if you develop backend, I could help you to for this purpose.
Thank you very much,
Fantastic.
Vadim. I am taking notes about the group from Yuzikov that now is a big group. You, Maxime, and I think also Vadim Plakti, that is not with us today, but I will contact. And what about Franklin and Marshall?
For the summer, we're going to have Joey. It's Joey Buck, yes,
Correct.
and he wants to do coding.
That's his interest, not experimental.
Joy is a J
Joey.
EY.
Ah, A-Y.
E.
Oh, E-Y. Joy, okay.
Joseph.
Buck.
B-U-C-K.
Buck.
Ah, Buck.
Yep. Like
This
$1.
morning, the lecture was about buck converters. Buck converter, buck.
Oh no, the buck is like a the buck. Get someone off your back.
Okay.
Buck.
Okay.
Or
Like a bucking
deer.
bronco.
Or a deer.
Okay.
Buck.
Or $1 is a buck.
Okay.
One buck.
Oh, thank you. So here in our team, maybe Emanuele Vignoli, and for coordination in our team, we will have also Pierluigi, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Vadim and Maxime and you all, in our plan for the activity of this week, I think tomorrow at 4 p.m., Pierluigi would like to work with you all and coordinate and focus on this task for GUI development.
Yeah, that might even be, that's kind of the kickoff of the working group.
Yes, we can stay all together working on this, but if we need maybe more experiment, we can split some in the field and some here. Okay? Good. Wow. we wish to have a discussion on other.
While we have Vadim, we might want to talk about the GPR conference because his.
Oh,
paper-
yes, good.
Let's.
Vadim. Ruben.
Yes, I hear.
Did you hear about team's conversation?
Yes.
About GPR 2022 in Denver, Colorado.
We'd like to send somebody to represent your poster has been accepted. And we'd like to send somebody, and we're thinking of, I think Luca might be willing to go. And maybe Lorenzo as well.
Yes, if my dates are available, I would like very much.
Okay.
Has a poster been designed? I know it was accepted as an oral presentation at first. So I don't know. Have you thought about a poster, or is that something that we can help you with?
I think we prepare a poster and then we presented it for you all to edit it with us. I think so.
Vadim, can you repeat what you said? You said you will create a poster and then send it?
Yes. I sent it for our authors, so they can suggest which we should improve, how to improve it for presentation.
I'm afraid I didn't.
The audio is very choppy.
I didn't understand what you said.
Yeah, you could back away from your microphone.
Yeah, maybe move away from the microphone a little bit. Okay, so.
Sorry, I will prepare the poster and send it to authors for editing.
Okay, great.
Good.
Yes. And then we can print it or maybe if you're going, you can print it here.
Yes, no problem.
Okay. That's great. Thank you, Vadim.
Vadim, can you also prepare maybe the paper? I don't remember if the paper is already there.
Yes, we work on the paper which we plan to, which we going to present in on the conference, GPR conference. So we have some text and materials for this. And I think it's possible to make it the paper as a paper.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Thank you. I was asking about the paper because we can read the paper before, and if we have some questions for you, we can maybe have a meeting with you to share the poster content in order to be ready to answer questions when we are there.
Of course. I think we share this paper as it will be possible.
Okay, so I can assume that maybe one of our group will travel there, and the question is, can you really cover the expenses for traveling?
Yep, we will cover it.
Yeah.
So we should probably get, I'm sure the early bird registration is passed.
Yes.
We gotta get somebody registered pretty quickly.
Yes, pretty quickly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe today I would like to ask if you wish to go there,
Yes.
remember that on the 9th of June, you have the final dissertation of your PhD.
Yes.
Oh
So
my.
very, very short time. Oh, okay, you have already prepared the presentation, but you have to travel after the 9th of June, of course.
Okay.
So
When is that? When is the, it's in Colorado?
17 of June.
This summer?
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Very, very soon. Because also you have to apply and check for visa that it's okay, but we are tight.
Yeah.
Well, in general for United States is a matter of 1 or 2 days, no more.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy.
Yes.
Just the time for evaluate.
Yeah.
Sure.
I have another question that is valid also for me. Do you have a valid passport?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I have element to check
The wife.
No, concorso della scuola,
Il?
concorso della scuola.
Okay, because you are also, is attending also other, let's say, selections for becomes a teacher at a high school. Okay, so check your dates. I would like also to talk to Pierluigi that
Oh, maybe, yeah.
he is interested. And of course, I can also go and see what I can do.
Yeah.
The only problem I have to be here on the 17th of June. So if my presentation is on the 17th is a problem. My presentation, the Vadim's poster presentation. Can we check if there is an online program?
Yes, I'm looking right now.
A preliminary, maybe.
Okay, Monday. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the word search I should be using. Vadim, do you have a
Keyword.
keyword or a topic under which your poster will be presented?
Just a moment. As I remember, this is a method or
Methods.
something like this. Methods.
Methods, okay. Methods.
Poster presentation.
So I'm looking at the email you had sent about the poster.
Paper status, option B, no proceedings paper.
Methods, okay, it says
Yes,
methods. Okay,
one methods.
Okay, so let me see if there's a methods. Find. No, not there.
Non c'è sempre un nodo stretto sugli accessi fuori
I don't see any methods listed in the preliminary schedule.
There are poster session on the preliminary program.
No. Nothing listed, no poster listed.
is there an acceptance?
Sorry?
Yeah, there's,
Acceptance letter?
yes, it says presentation type is poster, theme is methods, there's a title. There's no information about which
So, was there like a deadline for registration? Because if
Yeah.
I didn't pay registration fees, at least one over,
Yeah.
then they would cancel.
Vadim,
Yes, I see.
okay. I wish to ask you, if you have time and you wish to do, to ask the organization of GPR 2022, when is your poster presentation, the day, okay?
Okay.
And maybe you can already communicate that you are not able to travel to United States now, and you can confirm that the poster will be presented by a replacement or one of the co-authors.
Yes.
So you can confirm that the poster will be valid and active during the conference. I have another simple. Yeah. Okay.
Which,
You find.
which category?
It's 120.
One
It's paper number 120. It's in this session. What day is this now? There it is. It's this one.
Joe, 16.
1600, but tell us the day.
So this on the
14th. It's 14th.
14th
Okay,
at 16.
that's Tuesday.
14 June
Yep.
on sorry, at 16.
The session starts at 1600,
Okay.
and it looks like it's, well, but it's a poster, so
Yes.
so they're all simultaneous.
Okay, so
Yep.
we don't need to ask them.
We're all set. Thanks, Vadim.
Yeah, we're good, Vadim.
It's important to ask the possibility to replace.
Yes, but maybe you can confirm only that the poster will be presented by not by you or any other from Ukraine, but only from another country. Yes.
Okay. I'll ask organization.
Yeah, I've seen in the reply that you forwarded to me or to us that there is an option B, no proceeding paper. Why you have selected no proceeding paper?
Because deadline was at when the war started, so we have no time to prepare final paper for this.
All right. Maybe because of the particular situation in Ukraine, you can ask if they can or to accept the proceeding paper to even if the deadline is over. Maybe.
I remember writing to them. This was about at least 6 weeks ago now. I wrote to them twice, to the organizers, and never heard back from them, and explained exactly this.
Okay.
I'll try again, but after 2 tries, I got distracted on other things.
Oh, okay.
I'll take care of that.
Okay, thank you. Team is taking this action because I think they should, but sometimes the organization cannot satisfy all the particular situation. I mention this because it's important to have a joint publication for the NATO project published. Good. So
it looks like they've switched every paper to poster. Maybe that's because of COVID, but everyone is listed as a poster.
But this conference is planned to be in presence or in a blend mode, presence and remote. Do we have any clue?
If it's posters, I think they mean in person.
People.
Yeah.
No, but IEEE, for example, during COVID, they
So they
switched
put the posters
poster,
on-
yes,
Ah,
online. And I remember we presented with Andrea posters online. But
Oh, no, there are oral ones as well. I'm finding it now. Yeah, it's a mixture of oral and poster. I must have been in the poster section of the program. Okay,
right.
I will write to them and see if we can get into the proceedings.
Now is arrived Pierluigi.
I have a thing. I don't know if I am visible because.
Hi.
Lead in. See you over there.
I have
There.
Can you see?
Yeah.
Can you see
There it is.
Pierluigi?
Hi, Pierluigi.
So we can continue a bit the discussion, the definition of who is participating. Tim and Sonia are very kind and are offering us to cover the expenses for traveling to GPR 2022 for presenting the poster prepared by Vadim and other Ukraine.
Okay.
So I was proposing, first of all, to you and
Okay.
Luca and
I don't know where the conference is.
yes,
Denver.
Denver, Colorado.
Okay. Okay. So
On
it's
the
about
4th
Colorado School of Mines.
5 days about.
Yeah, is it the 12th to the 17th?
Yeah,
something
yes.
like that?
To the 17th, okay.
And the poster is on
14.
Tuesday the 14th at
Let's see.
4 o'clock local time.
I would like to go, of course.
Yeah.
And, so, but I have to check and prepare and give you an answer.
Because you need a passport, valid passport,
Yeah.
you need a visa,
Yes, and in time.
and the available time
Yeah.
that must be at least
Right.
5 days, 4 or 5 days. Relaxed.
Yeah.
You can do also in 2 days, but it's not relaxed.
And I think the USA is requiring a COVID test within 48 hours.
COVID test.
Yeah.
Okay, in which month of the year?
June.
June.
Yeah, so kind of a month from right now.
2 weeks.
Probably will remain the same because
Yeah.
in the last time we had some instabilities about the whole thing.
So there are several things to check: COVID test, valid passport, visa acceptance, and
Very complicated. June is next month.
Yeah.
30 days.
yes, less than
Less than 20 days.
1 month.
30 days from now.
20, actually less.
Today is
So it's 19.
18 today,
So.
less than 1 month.
It will be very difficult. So I will give you an answer in 1 day.
Yes, before to the end of this week.
Yeah. I must check.
And also for you, please check everything. I would like very much also to go in with you or in replacement of you, but I prefer
Thank you. I would
first of
like
all
to.
to give you this opportunity.
It would be nice to stay there for a couple of days and to confuse.
And June is the month for wildflowers in Colorado.
Wildflowers.
It's beautiful in Colorado in June.
Your daughter, she's still in Denver?
She's an hour north of Denver.
Okay.
Fort Collins.
Okay, Fort Collins.
Fort Collins, yeah.
Ah. So what is famous for Collins for the reservoir, gold reservoir?
No, they're,
No, this is for Knox.
yeah, that's Fort Collins. But what's funny is there's a very famous reservoir in Fort Collins. It's water.
It's water.
Water, Horseshoe Reservoir, very famous big lake.
And in case I can come and I can plan how is the traveling time to visit Lancaster and then Denver? Easy connection from
Very easy, yeah.
from Lancaster to Denver or from Philadelphia?
From Philadelphia to Denver. So if you flew, you would probably have a layover somewhere. So if you did a layover either on the way there or back in Philadelphia, it's about an hour on the train out to Lancaster.
Yes.
And then back to Philadelphia and to Denver. But if you arrange it so that your layover
Okay.
is in Philadelphia,
Okay.
the train is just an hour.
Okay. So we are not obliged to go to Lancaster, but of course.
But if you care to, we would love to see you.
Yeah.
And you have a place to stay
Thank you. Thank you.
and a dog to throw tennis balls for.
Jim, I have been there.
Yeah.
You've been to Lancaster? Of course you have. You've been Batuta? What brought you to Lancaster?
There was an ASME conference there.
Oh,
Several
geology.
years ago.
Yeah,
Don't remember when exactly, maybe it was
It's like every 2
30
years.
something.
Somehow Lancaster.
That's interesting.
Capital
Yeah, there's a-
for geology.
Yeah.
They built a new convention center. It's probably 12 years old now, but there are a lot of conferences in Lancaster now.
Okay, that was downtown Denver.
Yeah,
I arrived in the news.
yeah, you were probably in the convention center right downtown.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great.
So it's lunchtime. We have 5 minutes or the 10 minutes. We have no a restaurant book. But anyway, Pierluigi is now with us, and I would like to ask you to.
Can we have a short meeting to see details about the device driver, how to manage information from devices to publish and diffuse on the net, okay?
We were just talking, just before you arrived, about how that's gonna be one of our big chores that we gotta get done somehow.
Yes, we have to do that. I think the device driver will be straightforward. I don't see any problem or duties, something stronger. Instead, the user interface will be.
Yes,
destination
that's
task.
Yes, yeah, that's
Can be
where we
challenging.
were, yeah.
We have a very a formulation, we know how we want to have it, and we have clear ideas, but implementation can be difficult. So
Yes.
that is another point, very important.
Great.
Okay.
I remember you have defined a time tomorrow at 4 p.m.
Not tomorrow, today.
Today. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's why you're here.
Yes, and we can also have it when you, I don't know about the other activities because I don't remember.
Yes, we have some activities planned with Mattia with LiDAR.
Yes,
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 that start at 2 p.m.
yeah.
We have the tripwire.
And
Yeah,
tripwire,
and
yeah.
LiDAR, yeah, we're gonna
So
do some playing around with
We should go.
Yeah.
Get it,
if
get it over with.
depends on which of you
Oh,
will
the
be
LiDAR app.
devoted to this activity, but maybe we can also split if we are not ready at 4 to
Sure.
come all together here.
Yeah, if, at 2 p.m. I want to see how or what Mattia is doing,
Yeah.
but I would also be very interested in working with the GUI
Yes.
development and learning about the data transfer.
Right. Also, I would like to be here. So if it's possible to plan all activity, experimental activity
Sure.
by 4 p.m. That's great.
Well, if we need to keep going, I'll stick with the experiments because my coding is in Fortran 77, so you don't need me in this meeting.
Okay. And I have a question, Khaled. What about the connection and the participation to this meeting from your collaborators? Because I haven't seen them connecting.
Oh, Montessor was there yesterday.
Okay.
Was he? That's great.
Yeah, he was there, but he wrote me.
Okay, but today, if they want to be, every day actually,
Yeah.
if they want to be connected.
Yeah, he wrote me that he tried to speak. We were in the, doing experiments and so on. But was no connection.
Somebody probably wasn't next to the computer at that moment, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So then it's okay if you have anything that can help.
Right. So I think now we can go for lunch, and probably in an hour we will be ready to start and moving things there, because it takes some
We're gonna
time
be here till.
and to be ready for 12.
Very good.
Very good.
Okay.
During the lunch, maybe I will just give you update.
I don't know the date, but they've done how the experimenting out in the garden is going to go. But if you're available at 4:00 for a meeting about the GUI and the device drivers, I'll send you a link so you can join that. Also, Vadim, I'll send you the link for that.
The Luigi is not getting lunch.
Stay here preparing stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
It's the same time.
Bye bye, Vadim, bye bye.
Bye bye.
I don't need.
Sorry.
You have things people that show really easy with it, so we work.
That's it. You don't have.
Right, exactly.
But this year.